Emma Voss was the quiet girl no one noticed. Lily Carter was the bright, bubbly 10-year-old everyone adored. No one in Bellridge could have imagined that their paths would cross in a way so chilling it would leave an entire town shattered, and a nation asking how a teenager could lure an innocent child to her death with terrifying precision. It began on a warm spring afternoon in the quiet town of Bellridge, Oregon, the kind of place where people left their doors unlocked and neighbors knew each other by name. 10-year-old Lily Carter had just finished her school day at Bellridge Elementary, a small red brick building surrounded by a white picket fence. It was a Thursday, and Lily was excited. Her mother had promised to take her to the craft store after dinner to pick up supplies for her science fair project. As always, Lily took the same route home, a short walk down Elm Street, a left onto Maple, and across a vacant lot that cut her travel time in half. She'd walked that path hundreds of times. But that day, something went horribly wrong. At exactly 2:58 p.m., school surveillance footage captured Lily leaving the front gate. She looked cheerful, swinging her purple backpack and humming to herself. A few cars passed by, a crossing guard waved goodbye, and she continued walking. By 3:30 p.m., her mother, Allison Carter, began to worry. Lily was usually home by then. At first, she thought Lily might have stopped to talk to a friend or gotten distracted. But after several unanswered calls to the neighbors and no sign of her daughter, panic began to set in. By 6 p.m., Allison called the police. The Bellridge Police Department responded quickly. Officers were dispatched to search the surrounding streets, backyards, parks, and any place a child might wander into. Volunteers formed search parties, and the town's Facebook groups lit up with concerned posts. A photo of Lily, brown hair in a ponytail, blue eyes, wearing a unicorn hoodie, was shared hundreds of times. Drones were flown over wooded areas, and search dogs combed nearby trails. But by nightfall, there was no trace of her. No signs of a struggle, no dropped backpack, no eyewitnesses who remembered anything unusual. Lily had vanished in broad daylight. The next morning, police expanded their search radius. They requested footage from traffic cameras, businesses, and nearby houses. Doorbell videos were reviewed frame by frame. At first, it seemed like Lily had simply disappeared into thin air. It was only after careful review of a city-owned camera positioned near a rundown gas station that investigators spotted something. At 3:07 p.m., Lily appeared on screen, walking with another girl, older, wearing a hood pulled tightly over her head. The older girl kept her head down, making her face hard to see, but Lily looked comfortable, even happy, as they walked side by side. The footage stunned investigators. Lily had never been known to socialize with older kids, and her parents had no idea who the girl could be. There was no known reason for Lily to be with a teenager after school. Theories began to surface. Had Lily been tricked? Had she followed the girl willingly? Or had she been coerced? The mystery deepened. As the hours passed, the search shifted from hopeful to urgent. Something wasn't right. Lily Carter hadn't just wandered off. She had been taken, and whoever had lured her away had done it so quietly, so carefully, that no one even noticed she was gone. 2 days after Lily Carter's disappearance, the investigation took a significant turn. With little progress from physical searches, authorities focused on surveillance footage in the surrounding areas. Dozens of video files were analyzed, from doorbell cameras to city traffic recordings. Most showed nothing out of the ordinary. Just kids walking home, parents unloading groceries, and delivery drivers going about their routes. But one piece of footage stood out. Captured by a street-facing security camera mounted above a shuttered gas station, the video showed Lily walking alongside a teenage girl at 3:07 p.m. on the day she vanished. The gas station had been closed for years, located 3 blocks from Lily's school on a street not heavily traveled. The area was quiet, surrounded by overgrown bushes and chain-link fences. In the footage, Lily appeared calm, possibly even cheerful, as she walked beside the older girl. The teenager wore a dark hoodie with the hood drawn up, partially obscuring her face. But for a brief moment, only a second, she looked toward the camera, revealing her features just enough for facial recognition software to do its job. Within hours, investigators had a match. Emma Voss, a 15-year-old student at Bellridge High School. She was a quiet, mostly unnoticed girl, with no prior disciplinary issues and no known connection to Lily or her family. Her academic records were spotless. She kept to herself, rarely joined after-school activities, and had no significant presence on social media. To many of her classmates and teachers, she was just another face in the crowd, easy to forget, even easier to overlook. When detectives visited the Voss residence, Emma's parents appeared cooperative. They said Emma had come straight home from school and spent the rest of the evening in her room. But when questioned directly, Emma denied seeing Lily at all. She claimed she didn't know her and hadn't spoken to any younger students recently. Her responses were careful, emotionless, and rehearsed. Something felt off. Officers obtained a warrant to search Emma's phone. At first glance, nothing seemed unusual. But forensic experts quickly discovered that several apps and messages had been deleted within the last 48 hours. Deeper scans uncovered data fragments from a now-deleted messaging profile. Using a fake name and photo, the account had contacted Lily days before she disappeared. The messages seemed friendly, even innocent, talking about art supplies, favorite animals, and school, but the timing raised red flags. It became clear that Lily had been targeted. As the evidence mounted, Emma's quiet exterior began to crumble. Her digital footprint told a far different story than the girl her peers thought they knew. Investigators began mapping Emma's movements using GPS data from her phone. They were particularly interested in where she and Lily had gone after passing the gas station. The footage had cut off just after they walked out of frame, but the path they were on led to an area that raised immediate concern: a long abandoned drainage tunnel hidden behind thick brush and a rusting gate. Emma had lied. She had seen Lily that day. And it was becoming evident that she had led her there for a reason. With Emma Voss now under close investigation, detectives began piecing together the hours following Lily Carter's last known appearance. The surveillance footage ended just as the two girls walked past the old gas station, leaving a gap in the timeline. Investigators knew they needed to find out where the path led and what had happened next. A review of GPS data pulled from Emma's phone offered the next chilling clue. It showed a steady path leading from the gas station to a neglected part of town, an isolated stretch behind a chain-link fence where the woods met the edge of an industrial zone. There, hidden by brush and long forgotten by most residents, was the entrance to an old drainage tunnel. The tunnel, overgrown and crumbling, had once been part of the city's flood control system, but had not been maintained in years. According to the data, Emma's phone had stopped moving near the tunnel entrance for over 30 minutes before returning to her home. The location was remote enough that no one would have noticed if something happened there. With this lead, a search team was dispatched. Officers, along with cadaver dogs and forensics experts, entered the area early the next morning. It didn't take long. 40 feet into the tunnel, behind a wall of debris and broken concrete, searchers found what they were dreading. Hidden beneath a discarded tarp were Lily's remains. Her body showed signs of blunt force trauma, and there was evidence of a struggle. The tunnel walls were smeared with dirt and handprints. She had fought back. The scene was quiet, cold, and disturbing. What had once been a forgotten part of town was now the center of a homicide investigation. As news of the discovery spread, the town of Bellridge fell into a state of grief and disbelief. Lily's family was devastated, and residents who once felt safe began questioning everything they thought they knew about their community. No one could understand how a 15-year-old girl could commit such an act, much less plan it. But the facts were becoming harder to ignore. Forensic teams scoured the tunnel and its surroundings. Shoe prints matching Emma's size were found near the entrance. A torn strap from Lily's backpack was located several yards from where her body had been concealed. Nearby, in a plastic grocery bag, investigators found a hammer and a pair of gloves. Both items tested positive for Lily's DNA. The hammer's handle showed partial fingerprints, later confirmed to be Emma's. The weight of evidence was overwhelming. Emma's deleted messages, the GPS trail, and now the physical connection to the crime scene painted a horrifying picture. The tunnel hadn't been chosen at random. It was secluded, silent, and out of sight. This wasn't a spontaneous act of violence. It had been planned, carefully, quietly, deliberately. Emma Voss had lured Lily there with purpose. What began as a missing child case had transformed into a calculated murder investigation. And the deeper authorities dug, the more unsettling the truth became. As investigators delved deeper into Emma Voss's background, the question on everyone's mind was simple. Why? Why would a quiet, intelligent 15-year-old orchestrate such a horrific crime against a child she barely knew? Searching for answers, detectives began with Emma's home life. Her parents, both working professionals, described her as a gifted but shy girl. She had never been in trouble at school, had no history of violence, and had always performed well academically. But beneath this calm exterior, a much darker narrative was waiting to be discovered. The first major breakthrough came from Emma's bedroom. Tucked beneath her mattress was a black journal filled with handwritten entries, doodles, and strange symbols. At first, the content appeared harmless: teenage musings, poetry, and abstract thoughts. But as the pages went on, the tone shifted. There were entries describing how it might feel to control someone's fate. One page featured a sketch of the drainage tunnel with careful notes on visibility, distance from the road, and times when the area was most likely to be empty. Another entry listed various trial runs, including plans to follow younger students home. It appeared Emma had been fantasizing and preparing for something like this for months. In the back of the journal was a folded piece of paper labeled Test Run 1. It listed supplies, gloves, hammer, rope, tarp. Each item had a check mark beside it. The words, "Pick the right one," were underlined 3 times. It was no longer a question of whether this act had been deliberate. It was now clear it had been premeditated. Lily had been chosen, not at random, but as the result of a process that no one around Emma had suspected was happening. Detectives next examined Emma's laptop. Hidden under encrypted folders were disturbing files: digital drawings of crying children, altered photos of isolated places, and recordings of her speaking to herself about control, power, and detachment. There were also hours of video footage showing Emma walking through different parts of town alone, filming possible locations. The tunnel appeared in several of them, always with whispered comments like "no cameras" and "quiet enough." She had scouted the area thoroughly. Her internet history was equally alarming. She had searched for phrases like "how to fake innocence," "how to delete phone records," and "how long before police stop looking." There were forums visited that discussed violent crime, psychology, and even criminal case studies involving minors. The obsession with detail was chilling. She had studied how others had been caught and tried to avoid the same mistakes. Psychological evaluations were ordered. Experts found Emma to be emotionally detached, highly intelligent, and exhibiting traits associated with psychopathy, especially the lack of empathy and a desire for control. But perhaps the most unsettling detail emerged during a final review of her video files. In one, filmed weeks before Lily disappeared, Emma stood at the edge of the tunnel, staring into the darkness. Her voice, calm and emotionless, said just one thing: "This is where it starts." The evidence was undeniable. The behavior, the planning, the motive, rooted not in anger but in cold fascination. Emma Voss had built a fantasy, one she brought to life with terrifying precision. In the weeks following Emma Voss's arrest, the town of Bellridge remained in a state of disbelief. A girl who had once blended into the background had now become the center of a chilling case that made national headlines. As the legal process began, investigators prepared to reveal the full scope of Emma's actions. The public wanted answers. The courtroom would soon hear the darkest ones. Emma was charged as an adult with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and premeditated child endangerment. The district attorney called the crime deliberate, calculated, and beyond comprehension. During pretrial hearings, the defense initially explored the possibility of mental illness, but withdrew an insanity plea after reviewing the sheer volume of planning Emma had engaged in. Psychiatrists testified that while Emma exhibited traits commonly associated with personality disorders, she was fully aware of her actions and their consequences. She wasn't delusional, she was methodical. In court, prosecutors presented Emma's journal, her digital recordings, and the video files as part of their case. The jury listened in silence as a video was played of Emma walking through the tunnel weeks before the murder, calmly narrating her thoughts about perfect timing and places where no one would hear. A collective unease swept the room. The girl in the footage wasn't angry or emotional. She was quiet, composed, eerily detached. One of the final and most damning pieces of evidence was a recorded screen capture from Emma S.'s laptop showing her checklist for what she had called Project Lilac. Investigators never found any connection between the project name and Lily Carter directly, but the initials matched. It included objectives like gain trust, test location, and complete without suspicion. There were no mentions of guilt or hesitation, just bullet points and dates. Emma pleaded guilty before the trial could proceed to sentencing. She showed no emotion during her hearing. When asked if she had anything to say, she declined. No apology, no explanation. The Carter family sat in the front row of the courtroom, silent but visibly devastated. Their daughter had been taken from them not in a random moment of chaos, but by someone who had planned every step. The court sentenced Emma Voss to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years. Legal experts debated whether justice had truly been served, considering her age, but for most of Bellridge, the sentence brought some sense of closure. Still, the scars would remain. In the months that followed, the school district launched a full review of its mental health services. Teachers and staff underwent new training aimed at identifying behavioral red flags. A memorial garden was planted outside Lily's school, with a bench bearing her name and the words, "Forever loved, never forgotten." The drainage tunnel was sealed shut and declared off-limits by the city. Though the case was legally closed, it haunted everyone who followed it. The final image of Lily, captured on that grainy footage beside a girl she had trusted, became a tragic symbol. The story of Emma Voss served as a grim reminder that danger does not always come from strangers. It can wear the face of someone just like you.